Good morning, friends. Today we will learn two important topics. First is autosclerosis and second is Meniere's disease. Let us start with autosclerosis. The other name is autospongiosis. Before starting our topic, let us recollect anatomy of labyrinth. Labyrinth means inner ear. Frankly speaking, anatomy of labyrinth is very complex. Still, we will try to recollect. Let us know something about otic labyrinth. Otic labyrinth means membranous or endolymphatic labyrinth. What are the organs included in otic labyrinth? They are utricle, saccule, cochlea, semicircular ducts, endolymphatic duct and sac, and this otic labyrinth is filled with endolymph. Another entity is periotic labyrinth. It surrounds the membranous labyrinth and it consists of vestibule, scala tympani, scala vestibuli, perilymphatic sac of semicircular canals and periotic duct. It is filled with perilymph. Now, let us go in detail. Initially, we talked about membranous labyrinth, and this is we have to learn about bony labyrinth. It is also known as otic capsule. It has got three layers. Innermost layer is endosteal layer. Another is enchondral layer and outermost is periosteal layer. Autosclerosis or autospongiosis is a disease of bony labyrinth where one or more foci of irregularly laid spongy bone replace part of normally dense enchondral layer. For any disease, we have to know something about etiology. So, what are the etiology for autosclerosis? First is the anatomical basis. That is, sometimes enchondral layer persists and later turns into bony foci. That is anatomical basis, and in anatomical basis this is more common in the area in the anterior footplate, anterior part of the footplate, that is known as fistula antifenestrum. Another etiology is heredity. It is autosomal dominant. Race, white more than Negroes. Females are more affected than males. Most common age group is between 20 to 30 years. It is increased during pregnancy and menopause, and there is a syndrome known as van der Rohe syndrome, in which you get osteogenesis imperfecta, autosclerosis, and blue sclera, and last is viral or measles infection. Now, what are the types of autosclerosis? First is stapedial autosclerosis, which is most commonly seen. It has got either anterior focus, posterior focus, or circumferential. In biscuit type, only foot plate is thickened, or autosclerosis focus is limited to only foot plate. Annulus is not involved. Sometimes we see extensive autosclerotic foci, and it is known as obliterative variety. One is cochlear autosclerosis, in which autosclerosis is seen in cochlea also. It is also seen sometimes in the region of round window. It causes sensory neural hearing loss, and in histologic autosclerosis, patient doesn't have any symptom, but we may see it histologically. Now we will know something about pathology. Grossly, it looks like a chalky white, greyish or yellow, sometimes red due to increased vascularity, especially when the lesion is active. Microscopically, we see immature active lesion in which numerous marrow and vascular spaces with plenty of osteoblasts, osteoclasts, and a lot of cement substance which stains blue or blue mantles with H stain. When foci becomes mature, vascularity decreases and we see more fibrillar substance and it stains red. What will be the complaints of a patient having autosclerosis? He will complain of hearing loss. It starts in 20s. It is usually bilateral, painless, and slowly progressive. Patient sometimes say that he hears better in noisy atmosphere. This condition is known as paracusis vilici. This happens because whenever there is noisy environment, people speaks louder and patient feels that his hearing is improved in noisy atmosphere. In cochlear autosclerosis, patient complains of tinnitus also. In some cases, vertigo is also experienced by the patient, and speech of patient is monotonous and well modulated, soft. Now, what will you see on examination? You may see Schwartz sign. What is Schwartz sign? It is reddish promontory seen through intact tympanic membrane. That is known as Schwartz sign. In these cases, eustachian function is normal. Tuning fork tests are usually suggestive of conductive loss. In pure tone audiometry, we see Carhart's notch. Tympanometry, stapedial reflex is absent. For any disease, we have to consider other differential diagnosis. What are the differential diagnoses for otosclerosis? First is secretory otitis media. Second is adhesive otitis media. Third is tympanosclerosis. Fourth is attic fixation of head of malleus, ossicular discontinuity, congenital stapes fixation. How will you treat this type of patient? One is medical treatment. Sodium fluoride is given to reduce the active lesion, but it is not that much effective. Once diagnosis is confirmed, stapedectomy with placement of prosthesis is the treatment of choice, and usually patient gets good hearing on table. Material for prosthesis are Teflon, stainless steel, platinum, titanium. And how will you select patients for surgery? Ideally, hearing threshold should be 30 decibel or worse, hearing test should be negative, and speech discrimination score should be 60% or more. Now, when will you not advise the patient to get operated, or what are the contraindications to surgery? First is only hearing ear, associated Meniere's disease, young children, professional athletes, divers, frequent air travelers, and those who work in noisy surroundings. I hope that you have understood this topic well. Now we will take a pause for few seconds and we will go for other disease, that is Meniere's disease. I hope that now you have come out of otosclerosis and focus yourself for the next topic, that is Meniere's disease. It is also known as endolymphatic hydrops. It is a disorder of inner ear where the endolymphatic system is distended with endolymph, and Meniere's disease is characterized by vertigo, sensory neural hearing loss, tinnitus, and oral fullness. Now, if we want to understand this Meniere's disease simply, we should imagine that whenever there is either secretion of endolymph is more or absorption of endolymph is less, in that case endolymph increases and it causes the symptoms. So, what are the etiology for Meniere's disease? It is either defective absorption by endolymphatic sac. Secondly, vasomotor disturbances in which sympathetic overactivity of blood vessels leading to sympathetic overactivity leading to spasm of internal carotid artery in which secretion increases. In some cases, allergy is also found. Inner ear acts as a shock organ, producing excess of endolymph whenever patient is allergic to food or other substances. One more reason is which is suspected is sodium and water retention. It is also seen more in the cases of hypothyroidism, autoimmune, and viral etiology is also suspected. Now, what are the clinical features of Meniere's disease? The most common age group is 35 to 60 years. Males are affected more, usually unilateral, but main symptom is vertigo, in which there is a sudden onset. Attacks of vertigo comes in clusters with periods of spontaneous remission. Patient will say that I got attack of vertigo 1 month back, and after that I am completely normal. Patient may remain completely normal for few months, and suddenly all symptoms recur. Patients may present with nausea and vomiting, and we notice nystagmus, in which quick component of nystagmus is towards unaffected ear or normal ear. We also patients also present with complaints of vagal disturbance, that is diarrhea, cold sweats and bradycardia, and Tullio phenomena, that is patient feels discomfort whenever he hears loud sound. Patient also complains of hearing loss. Hearing improves after the attack and may be normal during remission. So you can say patient has got fluctuating hearing loss. Hearing loss occurs during attack and normal or near normal in the remission period. Patient does have slow and progressive deterioration of hearing. He also gets distorted sound, diaplacusis. Patient gets intolerance to loud sound due to recruitment. Patient do complain of tinnitus, which is low pitched and roaring type, and sense of fullness or pressure during attack of Meniere's disease. How will you investigate a case of Meniere's disease? First is pure tone audiometry. Second is speech audiometry, in which speech discrimination score is 55 to 85%. Recruitment is positive. SISI is more than 70%. SISI is also known as short increment sensitivity index. TDT, that is tone decay test, is less than 20 dB. If we have got facility of electrocochleography, SPAP ratio is more than 30%. If we perform Calic test, response will be reduced, and glycerol test is confirmatory, in which patient is given glycerol with water orally, and glycerol helps to reduce the endolymphatic fluid volume, and patient's symptoms improve. There are other variants of Meniere's disease like cochlear hydrops, in which only cochlear symptoms are seen. There are purely vestibular symptoms seen. It is called as vestibular hydrops. Sometimes patient falls and known as drop attacks. or you can say Tumarkin's autolytic crisis. Patient may have sudden drop attack with loss of consciousness in severe cases. Lermois syndrome, in which symptoms are seen in reverse order and in which some etiology is suspected. It is called as Meniere's syndrome, not disease, or secondary Meniere's disease. Patient may give history of trauma, syphilis, viral infection, or autoimmune etiology. How will you diagnose this? It can be confirmed by histopathology, but clinically, patient gives history in which he gets 2 or more definitive spontaneous episodes of vertigo lasting 20 minutes or more. 20 minutes or more than 20 minutes. Secondly, audiometrically documented hearing loss on at least one occasion, tinnitus or oral fullness in affected ear. All other causes are excluded. So you can say certain diagnosis. Sometimes we are not getting proper history, or we are not sure in which we can say probable diagnosis, in which we get only one definitive episode of vertigo, audiometrically documented hearing loss on at least one occasion, tinnitus or oral fullness in affected ear. And sometimes we get even less history of symptoms, and we can say as a possible diagnosis in which episodic vertigo of Meniere's type without documented hearing loss, in which we can have possibility of Meniere's in our mind. We do get sensory hearing loss, fluctuating or fixed hearing loss. Patient gives history of disequilibrium but without definitive episodes. Here also other causes are excluded. If you want to stage the Meniere's disease, in first stage, pure tone average in decibel in previous 6 months, if it is less than or equal to 25 decibel, it is first stage. 26 to 40 pure tone average in decibel, that is second. 41 to 70 is third stage, and more than 70 is the fourth stage of Meniere's disease. How will you treat a case of Meniere's disease? First is general measures, reassurance. If patient gives history of smoking, ask him to stop smoking. Salt diet is restricted. Avoid excess intake of water. Avoid excess tea, coffee, alcohol, and avoid stress. During acute attack, we can give injection diazepam and reassurance, bed rest, and vestibular sedatives are very helpful. Diamine andronate, promethazine, or prochlorperazine. These are vestibular sedatives, and for the long term, we can give vasodilators like carbozan inhalation, in which 5% CO2 and 95% oxygen is given for inhalation, and histamine drip. For managing chronic attacks, we have to give vestibular sedatives like betahistine and nicotinic acid, diuretics, propenthyline bromide, elimination of allergen. If patient has got hypothyroidism, we should give treatment to cure hypothyroidism, and intratympanic gentamicin. We should place gromate in the tympanic membrane, and instead of gentamicin, which is vestibular toxic, so gradually it causes chemical labyrinthectomy and patient's symptoms are reduced. If medical treatment is failed or patient doesn't improve with medical treatment, we can advise surgery. In surgery, there are two procedures, conservative and destructive. In conservative procedure, decompression of endolymphatic sac should be done, or endolymphatic shunt operation, sacculotomy, fixed and codistat, section of vestibular nerve. These are conservative procedure, but in severe cases, one has to undergo for destructive procedures like labyrinthectomy or intermittent low pressure pulse therapy. Hope you have understood the topic. Thank you so much.